basically the brains of the operation. I mean, this is where all your data now is going to be concentrated and received from all your engineering facilities throughout the world. And you feel free to jump in.
Yes, it is. Right now, GM has our data centers across the globe. There's 16 major ones and about 25 smaller ones across the globe. When GM leadership asked me to take a look at this project, what my objective was to basically improve our security for our intellectual property and consolidate that. The one direction I had was from executive officers were to bring in GM's data under the control of the U.S. Constitution, and he said the United States Marine Corps. There was some feeling of risk having your intellectual property spread out across the globe for various reasons. So my objective was to bring that in-house, improve security, build a green data center that was much more energy efficient. So that was the initial objective when we started.
Part of what you had said yesterday was one of the reasons that Warren is being considered for the project is because of the abundant availability of power that you have access and the amount of power you would need in order to run that facility. Also, the advantage of having a building that has been sitting vacant for a number of years. It's the Cadillac building there on the Tech Center that you can see right from Van Dyke. And so Warren will now have a building that's been obsolete and sitting vacant now for quite a long time, and having that back in active use. And again, thank you for your consideration. I'm all set, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Green?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. The leased property, which is not part of the IFT, what's the value on that?
We're estimating it $40 million.
40? And that's all inside of the DDA, and that'll be at the full personal property tax rate? Okay. I'm just scribbling some math on that and counting chickens before they're hatched. But as Mr. Sadowski, and I'm sure all of us, we look forward to that project. We hope you consider both of them. I think the city could really use it right now, and I think some of the residents, especially with the employment possibilities at Powertrain, I think that would be a positive impact on the city, and we look forward to seeing you here again. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You, Mr. Comartin?
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening. I wanted to, first of all, thank the administration for really having updates brought forward to council and keeping us well informed on this whole issue. Two, I think keeping businesses in our community viable and wanting them to expand here, their dollars in our community is vitally important, because it takes the leverage off our residential tax base. So we need you here. We want you here. We would love to have you have us as your #1 choice. Secondly, I know that all the figures, it was said earlier in regards to jobs, those are vitally important to keep the numbers here in the community. I think it's important that we have a powerful global component to our city, and I think that's what you are. When we have gone through your facility, your uniqueness of how you communicate around the world is so important to us here. So I think having that networking ability, we want it here, so we appreciate it. Secondly, on behalf of the administration, Nancy, I do have a question for you. I know that we went through all the checks and balances. You guys have gone through as far as the viability of everything and put together the complete package for us. The only thing that I ask, and I probably ask it on a regular basis, no matter what company is on the annual performance reports. It says in the agreement that it's only if we request them. So I would want to make sure that the city does request them, because no matter what, I'd like to keep us informed and up to date on everything.
Actually, the report is requested 24 months after the completion of the project, and we do request those. The GM agreement is slightly different than the agreements that we typically use, so, but they too do report.
Excellent. All right, and that's all. Just keep everybody on the same playing field, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Warner?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kurt, I didn't get your last name again?
Kurt Lair?
Lair. You had mentioned last night a lot of particulars went to a favorable opinion of this facility. One was the fact that the fiber optic lines were already laid from AT&T and Sprint. Was it?
It was AT&T and Verizon.
And Verizon, okay. And also being centrally located, the intellectual security, because you said some of the things are already over in China.
There's always concern about having intellectual property under GM's control, and that was one of my objectives at looking at facilities, was being able to ensure we had U.S. legal control of our intellectual property.
Okay. Now with the other facility, we went through the hiring process of how you would go about gaining employees, but for this particular operation, how are you going to go about determining the hiring process?
Well, in terms of the facility itself, there will be jobs related to the maintenance and upkeep of the data center proper. That's the generator sets, the physical infrastructure, the power generation, the cooling systems. Those will be at a higher level technical jobs in terms of the infrastructure of the data center. There'll be additional support for the security systems, the command center systems, the networking components within the data center. So all of that high-tech related to power generation, high volume cooling, and command and control of the data center.
Now, would those specifically be internal promotions or specifically new hires?
Those will be additional new jobs that are now being done across the globe. We'll consolidate them here as new jobs.
Okay.
They won't be brought in, though.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations.
Any further comments from council members? Mr. Bacamino?
Thank you, Madam President. Real briefly, I just want to thank General Motors again for, during this reinvention process over the last several years, I think you've laid out the blueprint for this new economy and how to get through some storms. I know the City of Warren is also navigating through some of those same storms. It's nice to have you as a business partner considering us. And citizens watching there, this is something that I think is a win-win situation for both. Obviously, we have a history together, and hopefully we can continue that and have a future for many years. Thank you.
Mr. List?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank the gentlemen and ladies for being at our committee of the whole meeting yesterday and answering all our questions. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sadowski?
Thank you. I guess I kind of would like to more or less make the statement about General Motors and the facility that sits across from City Hall over there, and the impressiveness of that entire facility. The vehicle engineering building, which was built several years ago, really the entire world answers to what goes on in that building, and it's impressive that that facility sits right here in Warren on that square mile of property that General Motors owns. By having the data facility now there, all the intellectual properties now will be housed over at that facility. And I don't think many people know about the wind tunnel that sits on that facility. It's one of the very few facilities that General Motors, I know, rents out on a number of occasions, and during, I believe it was the past Winter Olympics, just beforehand, some of the downhill skiers had actually come into that facility to have their equipment wind tested, and the article was in Sports Illustrated, and again, this is all happening in our community, and I'm not sure if people are really aware of what goes on over there, and really, again, the world when it comes to General Motors, answers to that facility, and having this new investment coming there, and then the other one now down on Mound Road, I think is really going to continue to keep Warren on the world map. So again, thank you.
Any other council members?
Madam Chair.
Ms. Vogt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to thank you, Candace and gentlemen, taking your time last night, explaining to us everything that's going on, because that's something we all kind of like to know, what's happening, and the timelines of when we might be able to hear back of how things are happening. And I know for any one of us, if there's anything you require of us, if there's something you need, just give us a call or tell Ms. Burgess, and I'm sure she'll let us know. And we can call meetings in 18 hours notice, so thank you again.
Any other council members?
Thank you.
Mr. Stevens?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to thank you, and I really hope that we're considered on this, and I'll be saying a prayer every night that we do get both projects, and that Warren is selected. This would definitely be a boost for our economy. And thank you very much for answering our questions last night. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Borges, just real quickly, if the project is delayed for any reason, or maybe even done quicker, how would we adjust the schedule, or would there be an adjustment?
Our understanding, as indicated in our communication to the council, is that GM Executive Board is hoping to make a decision within this next quarter. And if it was to be delayed beyond September, the information will already be into the state. The council's resolutions will be into the state. The state will have taken action. Therefore, anything that is purchased or any renovations in real property that take place before December 31st of 2011 will already have been approved by the state. So I don't believe that there will be any further action that would need to be taken by the city council.
I'm just referring to a previous situation where there was, I think on the research and development, I'm not exactly certain off the top of my head, but there was a delay in the construction of the project, the overall project. And I think we ended up extending the time out 2 years. And I just curious if we have parameters in place of if, should we be awarded, I realize it's going beyond further, but should we be awarded this project? Are we familiar with how we would adjust that?
If it was to be delayed beyond December 31st of 2011, I would suggest and recommend that we come back to council and ask for an amendment to your actions. Do you have any comments on that, Mr. Blanchard or Troy?
We would ask for an amendment.
It's typically how it would be handled if it was delayed.
Okay. All right, well, as everyone has already stated, I greatly appreciate you considering us, and I hope you're successful not only in awarding that, but continued success within the city of Warren and other locations as well. So thank you for your time. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you for your time.
Go ahead and call the question, Mr. Liss.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Ms. Vogt.
Yes.
Mr. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Sadowski.
Yes.
Mr. Green.
Yes.
Ms. Comartin.
Yes.
Mr. Buckamina.
Yes.
Camp, yes. The motion passed unanimously.
Item number 16, an administrative hearing, consideration and determination in re request of General Motors LLC to approve an industrial facility tax exemption certificate under PA